YouTube? Welcome back. We're reacting to another video. This is called The Biggest Cheater in Pokemon History Was Finally Caught by Abysssoft. I'm very excited to see what this is about. This looks like it's about Pokemon speedrunning, actually. And I don't know too much about the Pokemon speedrun scene specifically, but I am a speedrunner. I speedrun Dark Souls 3 and some other Souls games, and I dabble in some others like Mario Odyssey and stuff like that. So I do know a bit about speedrunning, so I'm curious to learn more about Pokemon speedrunning specifically and how this cheater was caught. Let's find out.
Over the last year, speedrunner Jadiwi would set 10 records across 4 different games in the Pokemon series, a feat very uncommon today as the Pokemon games have been speedrun and optimized for over a decade. But it turns out that Jadiwi...
They're old games, or at least like, oh my god, they're old now. Oh my god, oh, that was just... It dawned on me how old some of these games are. Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, they've been out for so long that they would surely be optimized, right?
We only accomplished this because he was cheating. Perhaps worst of all, he almost managed to steal $8,500 worth of bounties with his cheated records. So let's start by looking at the run that first raised suspicion and led to Jadiwi's world of fake records to come crashing down.
Oh yeah, because so if you guys don't know what speedrun bounties are, a lot of times when like new tech is discovered or a new game is put out, there are things called speedrun bounties. And that's essentially where you can win money by having the best time. It's like a competition, essentially. So speedrunners will go and they'll compete in either this new game or this game with new tech or anything like that if there's a bounty. And they'll compete for a set amount of time. And by the time the deadline hits, whoever has the highest time will get prize money. So if this guy has cheated and has technically won these bounties, yeah, he would have unfaithfully, is that the term? He would have like untruthfully cheated his way into winning a lot of money. That is wild, actually.
On November 17th, 2023, Jadiwi was streaming attempts of Pokemon Sapphire Any% Glitchless, a game he first completed a run in just 4 days previously with
Any% Glitchless enjoyers, let's go.
A time of 2 hours and 39 seconds. The run he was currently on had an even better pace, and when it finished, he had achieved a second place time that was 5 seconds off the current world record. If we look at Jadiwi's timeline with the game, we see between his first run and second place time, only 4 days had passed, with another runner commenting that a 2-hour time is insane for a first attempt. Jadiwi
Thank you, Mac. 2 hours to say first run GG's, where you on keyboard and controller. I run on DS, and yeah, my first run. Dude, first run and getting second place, that is sus. That is a little sus.
Replied that he had been practicing every split of the game for several days and was close to a 202 in his previous attempts, but that he struggled with the bike sections. Aside from these 2 runs and Discord comments, with only the second place run even having a video, there wasn't any other evidence of Jadiwi's progress with the game. While he did have history with other games in the series, his less than a week grind to second place didn't sit well with one person in particular, the world record holder, Wave Warrior, and he set to work analyzing Jadiwi's run.
Yeah, imagine being the world record holder, and all of a sudden this guy comes out of nowhere and has only been doing it for a week, and all of a sudden he's like barely behind your record, like,
Jadiwi admitted to having problems with the bike. This was one of the first things Wave Warrior checked. In particular, he scrutinized a trick that lets you skip spinner trainers called run-to bikes. When you approach a spinner, they behave differently based on how you're moving. If you're walking or on the bike, they will pick a random direction to look every 32 frames. But if you're running, they will always look in the direction you're traveling when you enter their hearing radius, meaning a spinner will always catch you when running. This mechanic can be exploited to always pass a spinner, provided you can execute the requirements fast enough.
I didn't know that was a thing. Whenever I come up to one of those guys, I walk up to them and I see them spinning and I'm like, and I sit there for a good like 10 seconds analyzing, being like, all right, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna turn? I'm gonna analyze your pattern and I'm gonna go where you're not looking. And then they always catch me. They always catch me.
When a spinner
I didn't know that was a
direction
thing.
To look, they will remain stationary for 31 frames. On the 32nd, the random direction calculation is run again. This gives you a window of 31 frames to pass a spinner with 0 risk of being caught. So players run into the hearing radius to force a certain direction, then get on the bike, which takes 16 frames. Start moving, which is 8 frames, with each additional tile of movement being 4 frames. This sequence adds up to 28 frames, giving you a 6-frame window to come to a complete stop after running.
That is so tight. It's not as tight as what we saw before with the wet nut jump in the Mario Odyssey video, but that's still pretty tight, and that's so much calculation for just passing a dude. Oh my gosh, that is very technical.
As you can't mount the bike while moving. This is a very demanding trick, with top runners being able to pull it off more often than not. But when the 7 run-to bikes in Jadiwi's run were analyzed, it turned out that none of them were safe. He was so late on one of them that the NPC turned before he was safely passed, and on a second, he did the movement wrong and continued traveling in its line of sight, meaning had it turned, he would have been caught.
Oh.
This didn't look like the movement execution of a world record level runner, so Wave Warrior dug deeper into the run, this time analyzing the 3 manipulations that take place.
He was like, yeah, no, you're doing that wrong, dude. You don't have what it takes. Your bike skills aren't good enough to be at this tier, dude.
And what he found didn't add up either. While this speedrun was beginning to look questionable, one thing you don't want to question is the factuality of your news. And this video's sponsor, Ground News, can help in that regard. Ground News is a platform and
The wet nut jump.
on events around the world, with it combining articles from local and international sources in one place for easy access. Part of the reason I find this so useful is that it sources articles from across the political spectrum and displays which way a particular source leans. Take the recent achievement in Tetris, for example. You can see in the bias distribution that this was covered by more center and left organizations focused on
skipping
an
their
average
sponsor.
score of biases live features Abyssal platform back to minimize the seed manipulations in Sapphire. RNG in Sapphire is supposed to randomize the seed every time you perform a soft reset, but due to a bug, it instead starts from the same seed, which enables 3 manipulations to take place: Mudkip, Kyogre, and Wingle Manip. Wingle Manip is used to force an encounter and catch, with the Wingle having specific stats so it can one-shot a Geodude. To perform it, you need to save and soft reset, then press continue on a certain frame to get RNG on a known value, then follow a specific path. You'll know
You have to click continue on a specific frame to be able to get a Pokemon that can one-shot Geodude? Is what from my understanding?
if you're on the right seed by checking
Sounds
the NPC
complicated.
movement, but there is another factor, and that's step count. As every 128 steps, the game has a 50% chance to advance the friendship mechanic, which will change your RNG, and coincidentally, this happens during Wingle Manip, so your step count matters. So what does this have to do with Jadiwi's run? When he's
You gotta put like a whole Fitbit on yourself or have your Apple Watch on so you can count your steps so that your friendship is right.
leaving Little Root Town, he walks straight up, which triggers Mom to walk over to you. This not only wastes time compared to talking to Mom yourself, but also alters the step count. This put his step count at -7 compared to the established route, meaning he had to make a correction on the fly to save the manip. Since he's on an odd number, this meant he needed to do one of the correcting steps in the door of the market, as it's the only place where a single step can be adjusted. Jadiwi doesn't do this, however, and takes 2 steps above a ledge instead, resulting in a step count of -5. According to top runners, this spot isn't where you'd make a correction for Wingle Manip, so this was most likely a movement mistake. But a -5
So, you need to have a certain amount of steps in order for this manipulation tactic to actually work. It sounds like this tactic is very much like, you know, world record tactic. By the time you get to high level runs, everything is so refined that down to like step counts. I know for Dark Souls 3, for example, you have everything is down to a T with how much souls you get in a run. So with how much souls you get is always guaranteed usually. Maybe like give or take a couple if you get like a stray enemy dying. But you should get a set amount of souls in a souls run. And then that lets you level up to an exact amount. Which lets you do an exact combo, and if you're missing like levels or something, or you don't have enough stamina or something, or you fuck something up that way, your combo isn't gonna work and you're not gonna be able to one-phase a boss. For an example, in something that I do, this seems like, because it's not like a boss fight sort of leveling that way, this manipulation is a different one, but it sounds like it is so down to a T with just you need to have a certain amount of steps to be able to have your one mechanic be the right level in order for this one fight to like work good, but it's also down to RNG. But they literally went so far as to analyze this guy's steps, and I think that's wild. It makes sense from a speedrunner's perspective, but it is still wild just going and counting these guys' individual steps. So they called him out on it because he messed it up, and then I guess there's a fix, but he didn't even do the right fix properly. Oh, that's wild.
Step count still has a 50% chance of success, and the manip works in Jadiwi's run. Later in the run is Kyogre manip, very similar to Wingull, as you soft reset, then use a timer to aid in catching a Kyogre with a first turn Great Ball, with this being considered the hardest manip in the run. Jadiwi also hit this manip on his first try, and we'll come back to why these two manips are significant, as well as look at the Mudkip manip in a bit, as there are 3 healing decisions he made that also raise red flags. Across the run, there are only 5 potions that you'll have access to, so health management and knowing when to use one are extremely important. But if we analyze Jadiwi's use of potions, we don't see the actions of someone with intimate knowledge of the run. Instead, we see someone that doesn't know what they're doing. In Petalburg Woods after the
They're pretty much like, yeah, this dude's not a speedrunner. He has no idea what's going on. Bro, they just skill issued him.
Wingull manip, there's a Team Aqua member with a Poochyena that runners call the Aqua Pooch. Going into this fight, his Mudkip is at 19 of 25 HP, and he decides to use a potion to top it up. This decision makes no sense, as you're not in danger of dying in this fight unless you're at 13 HP. And any experienced runner knows this, but it's not even the only instance. On his way to the 5th gym, he heals his Marshtomp from 50 out of 81 before fighting the Delcatty. The Delcatty only has Double Slap as a damage move, which deals 6 per hit. And if you're taking enough damage in this fight that you have to heal, you likely lost significant time to its non-damaging moves as well, which is a reset anyway. On top of this, it's more beneficial to heal before the next fight, as a Linoon can raise its attack and do significantly more damage. The most egregious...
Yeah, if you're healing or something when you're not supposed to, that's always a sign that you don't really know what you're doing. And I think that even like relates to like Dark Souls. If you're using like a buff when you don't need to use a buff because you can kill it easily without it. Same sort of idea, them being like, yeah, he was not in danger of dying, but he did it anyways. Versus if you were confident and you knew the run like the back of your hand, like most world record holder contenders do, you wouldn't be doing this. That is definitely a red flag.
His heal, however, is at the end of the game when he tops up his Kyogre from 64. The most damage that Steven's Skarmory can do is 45 with its Aerial Ace, meaning the only thing to worry about is a crit. By healing here, he also changes the decisions that Skarmory's AI can take, which opens him up to a potential turn stall. The crit is only a 3% chance, and what makes this worse is that he decided to heal while on world record pace. No top runner would play around the crit with world record on the line, and this decision puts his ability to be a second place runner in serious doubt, with the theory being that he topped up his HP to make it easier to splice in each instance. While a top runner wouldn't make the movement or healing mistakes that Jadiwi did, these are only circumstantial evidence and don't prove concretely that the run was cheated. But there's one more detail that Wave Warrior focused on, and that's Jadiwi's attempt count. If we look at the splits from his first run on November 13th, we see he has a total of 256 attempts, and when he achieved the second place time on the 17th, his attempt count went up to 1,126, with these being the only runs he ever finished. That's 870 attempts over the course of 4 days, and he was called out about this in the Discord, with his response being that he played 14 hours a day.
They're like, bro, you did that many attempts in like just 4 days? And he's like, yeah, bro, I just played 14 hours a day. Someone's gonna math this. I'm gonna bet they're gonna map this out. Is that even possible?
But let's analyze this.
Yeah.
With a session time of 14 hours across 4 days, we get a total of 56 hours. Since there aren't any VODs of his attempts, we can't know for sure, but let's take his word and assume this is correct. The earliest reset point in the run is Mudkip manip, as it occurs directly at the beginning. To execute it, you need to perform a soft reset, then use a timer to confirm the Mudkip on a certain frame to obtain the naughty nature with specific stats.
Oh my god.
You won't know if the
That is so specific, just even trying to get your starter. Oh my gosh.
manip worked until the battle with the Poochyena. If its gender is male, you were a frame early and have the wrong Mudkip. But if you're a frame late, the genders of both Pokemon and Mudkip's HP will be identical to the correct frame.
What? Oh my god. I didn't even know. Bro, that's crazy. Like a frame difference changes the RNG of like the Pokemon you fight?
The frame
as
early
well?
reset is about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, with the frame late reset being closer to 5 minutes, as you need to play longer to verify the Mudkip. But let's be generous and assume that Jadiwi reset at the 3-minute 20 mark each time.
Okay.
870 attempts resetting at the earliest possible Mudkip manip gives a total minute count of 2,900, or just over 48 hours. This leaves 8 hours of time to perform any run that made it beyond Mudkip manip, Manip, which equates to 4 full attempts that didn't die, with one of those resulting in a second place run. You can adjust the calculation in Jadiwi's favor a bit by accounting for attempts that reset before Mudkip Manip due to error. Wave Warrior offered 100 such attempts in his original calculation and attributed no reset penalty to them as well. Despite this, the time Jadiwi had for anything but Mudkip Manip only goes from just under 8 hours to a little over 13 hours.
That is no shot that, like, 13 hours you're gonna get a world record or contender. That is crazy, actually. Like, yeah, using the earliest reset point and mathing it that way, that is actually crazy. But no shot it takes you 13 hours of getting full runs in to be able to get world, like, record contender. That's crazy. Like, at least for me, I think the earliest... You can reset really anywhere with Dark Souls, like if you're trying to go like deathless, because if you are going world record contender, you are going deathless. So if you were to die to say like Gundyr, you would like reset like 30 seconds in. But like, you know, you have to get full runs in to learn. Like it took me a while, quite a while of getting actual full runs in to be able to get anything like remotely decent. And if this dude only has 13 hours of proper runs, there is no shot at all.
Meaning he spent 43 madness-inducing hours grinding Mudkip Manip
43 hours on Mudkip.
The first 3 minutes of the game for a total of 13 hours.
That's
or
crazy.
6.5 full runs of the game at record pace. This is not a lot of time, especially when you consider that the game is full of high-variance fights that can end a run.
No shot.
Jadiwi is questioned about his attempt count and has this.
I'd imagine it's reasonably likely to get a lucky run in that many attempts. Sounds like persistence and luck, I guess. I'm surprised only 2 of the 1,000 runs finished. Did not pass Roxanne, 45% of Raymond, 50% did not pass TNL.
Just to say, 50% of my attempts did not pass Roxanne, and 45 of the remaining 50% did not pass Tate and Lisa. Roxanne is the first gym leader, with the fight taking place just over 15 minutes into the run. Given that he has a huge attempt count, this is a clever thing to say, but as we saw with the math, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Sapphire is a hard
The
game
math
to get a run
doesn't
going
lie.
in, given the various run killers, with top runners spending entire streams not getting anything beyond the mid-game. And given that Jadiwi had a budget of 13 hours, the only conclusion is that at best, his attempt count is fake, and at worst, the entire run is suspect. In a message to another runner, Jadiwi claims that he doesn't save any of his splits, and that he sets the attempt count by hand each time he starts a grind. It is possible he grinded 14 hours a day and put the attempt count in wrong, but there's no way of verifying if this claim is true or false. If we go back to Mudkip Manip, we also see another glaring issue. Given that he would have spent 43 hours on this trick alone, it reveals another fact. Jadiwi is extremely inconsistent at performing manipulations. If Jadiwi is this bad at Mudkip Manip, then it's safe to say he's likely not great with Wingle Manip either. And assuming he talked to Mom and used the -5 step count in every attempt, only 3 of 6 frames on this step count produce a Wingle. This means he would have been failing the Manip 50% of the time even if he executed it properly. Kyogre Manip is likely harder to perform than the other 2 as well, especially with the added pressure of being on good pace, with each failed attempt costing 45 seconds. But Jadiwi hits this first try, despite spending over 40 hours resetting on Mudkip Manip.
Yeah.
He also played on the...
Being able to, not being able to do something that's considered like an easier manipulation or an easier skip or an easier glitch, but being able to first try like one of the hardest ones, like, it's technically possible, but, like, it's very sus. Like, 40 hours compared to first try is a huge difference. Like, that's huge.
The DS console, which isn't hardware top runners prefer to play on, as it's slightly slower than the Game Boy player for GameCube, resulting in final times that are about 10 seconds slower due to the frame rate difference. Meaning, had he played this on the optimal hardware, it would have been world record by 5 seconds. None of this sat well with Wave Warrior, but since he couldn't find a splice or other definitive method of cheating, he kept this to himself. Fortunately, he only had to wait a month before more people became suspicious.
It only took a month before people fucking thought he was sus.
As Jadiwi laid claim to the most prestigious record in all of Pokémon.
Oh?
The current red any % glitchless record was set on January 26th in 2023 and was the result of almost a decade of grinding by Pokeguy. Not only was Pokeguy's time monumental, but it beat the previous record by over a minute and came just 3 seconds away from what many believe to be the game's final minute barrier.
A decade! A decade of grinding a speedrun. That's crazy.
Time was so good that a community member offered a $5,000 bounty for anyone that could beat it before February 1st, 2024, with an additional bounty of $1,000 being offered for anyone that set a 143. On Boxing Day 2023,
That's crazy.
Jadiwi would stream a run of any percent glitchless that beat the record by 11 seconds, but instead of being celebrated, it caused a wave of suspicion across the community. And if we look at his history,
This guy, okay, going into this, before we get too deep into this, just based off of what we know, this guy got second place in a week of practicing, right? And that's already sus. He's going up against someone who has spent a decade of his life dedicated to speedrunning a game. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say this guy was like, oh yeah, I just got really lucky practicing in a week and managed to beat the guy that was practicing for 10 whole years. That's wild. That's my guess. That is crazy. If that's true,
we can start to see why. Looking at his grind between June 7th and 10th, he improved his PB by a minute each day. This is unusual, as it normally takes runners months to drop their time by a minute this close to the record, with PBs usually resulting in a gain of 10 to 20 seconds. For Jadiwi, the opposite was true. A gain of a few seconds was rare, with leaps of over a minute being a regular occurrence. And looking at his attempt count during June, we see his 147 came on his 119th run. Another anomaly, as most top runners near this time have an attempt count in the thousands.
Yeah.
This rapid progression did raise some questions,
attempts.
but nobody suspected that he could be cheating. And when he resumed this category in September, it's worth noting that the only run he provided with video proof was the 147.52. He'd set a 4th place time that came 5 days after a record in blue no save corruption. And if we look at his attempt count, we see that it's now at 1,230, with his last PB having a count of 851, meaning he did 371 attempts in the span of 5 days. This brings us to the record, and as soon as the final split was hit, Wave Warrior proof called Jadiwi in chat by asking him to hard reset the emulator to prove the run was done live and not pre-recorded.
Oh, this dude is in his stream and he's like trying to call him out. Oh, the drama, the tea.
But instead, Jadiwi ended stream and went into the Pokémon Discord. He first posted a screenshot of his run with the caption, "Getting lucky is not a crime." Then 10 minutes later, addressed the proof call. "I just saw my chat on the replay. I didn't have it during the run. I just saw the hard reset requests. Now I'm sus." Sus indeed.
Now I'm sus.
Setting a record this prestigious after a week-long grind with thousands of dollars of bounties on the line, then dodging the proof call isn't exactly behavior the community expects. And with more than one person now doubting his accomplishments, an investigation was launched by the moderation team. Given
whole investigation, yo! FBI, open up!
that he didn't stream many of his attempts, the mods instead focused on 3 different pieces of evidence: his sum of best segments, his stream layout, and messages he had with the person issuing the bounties. If we look at his sum of best, we see that in his record, it's at 140.54. But in the 10 runs he streamed leading up to this, his sum of best was a 141.24. Between his 10th stream and the one where he got the record, there was a gap of 50 minutes. And top runners are in agreement that setting 30 seconds of gold splits in an offline attempt in this amount of time isn't possible. So what happened? When Jadiwi did stream, it wasn't always on Twitch, and looking at archives of deleted streams he did on YouTube, we see that a few days prior to December 21st, his sum of best steadily improved before arriving at a 140.54, the same number that was seen in his record. When questioned about this, he offered 2 explanations. Between the 21st and 22nd, he moved locations to his parents' house, and due to using a different computer, his splits file was out of date. The move itself isn't disputed, and on the surface, this appears to be a good explanation as to why his splits file rolled back for his attempts on Christmas and Boxing Day. But why did his sum of best change in the world record run? Jadiwi's answer to this is that in the 50 minutes between his 10th and 11th run, he went back through his VODs and added his correct gold splits so that his sum of bests would be correct. This claim seems dubious at best, since he could have done this before grinding any attempts at his new location. But if we analyze his stream layout, we can cast even more doubt on this claim. This is his stream layout for the 10 streams he did prior to the record, and this is the layout of his world record stream, which looks almost identical, except when you lay it over his previous 10 streams, you see that his live split shifted a couple of pixels. People change their stream layout all the time, but making a minor adjustment like that between attempts is a bit odd. And if you compare the layout from his world record to a layout from his old location, you can see that they're an exact match. The only way this could have happened was if while he was editing his sum of bests between his 10th and 11th runs, he adjusted the live split layout to pixel perfectly match his layout from before the move. Given that he dodged a proof call and the sum of best and layout from his record match a stream before he moved, the mods were of the opinion that he pre-recorded this run and passed it off as real during his Twitch livestream. They didn't have a smoking gun, however, as no splice or use of TAS had been found. But this was just the tip of the iceberg, and they shifted their focus to other records he had set.
But wait, there's more!
If we go back to the end of November, we see that Jadiwi was involved in 3 different races for Diamond and Pearl any percent Manipulous, where he set a 105.59 in the first race and a 59.46 in the second. The 105 is a very good time for a race, but the 59.46 is very significant, as not only is it a world record, but it's also the first sub 1 hour time in the category's history.
Dude, this guy's just fucking... Dude, if you're gonna fake them, choose one category to fake it so that it's like, okay, it's a little sus, but this guy's just going around being like, I'm fucking cracked at this game, I'm cracked at this game, I'm cracked at this game, I'm going for world record at this one, and then this guy's like, he's taking them all, dude. If you want to go under the radar, this is not the way to do it. I mean, don't do it at all, but this is not the way to do it, man. Oh my god, you're just going crazy with it. Jesus.
This was one of the first runs the team looked at after the investigation was launched, and there are a number of things wrong with it, so let's begin with an overview. The no manipulation category requires you to complete the first 2 gyms along with 2 Team Galactic encounters before an out of bounds glitch can be used to get you to the Hall of Fame cutscene. The run relies heavily on your starting Pokemon having good stats, with Chimchar being selected.
Makes
but
sense.
That's not all it needs. The powerhouse move of the run is Hidden Power, and in Gen 4, its type and power are determined by the user's IVs, which are just the values that determine a Pokemon's stats. Since you can't manipulate, this makes getting a good Chimchar a reset-intensive endeavor, with a few different combinations of stats and hidden powers being viable, but the...
So I'm imagining that getting Chimchar is probably your first major reset point. And I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that he reset 40 hours on this, and then managed to do a bunch of other stuff first try, is my guess. I'm gonna take a wild guess. Look at the speedrun frauds. Yes, I think they're wild. They're crazy. Oh my gosh. The one that happened at GDQ. Oh, I don't know if I'm familiar with that one. I might have to check that one out. I like learning about this stuff as like a speedrunner because I think it's crazy. I don't know. Like, I just think it's wild that people like. I understand. I guess like people would fake this kind of stuff, but it takes the fun out of it. It's so cool to just like actually earn these like. You know, earn these rankings and like work towards it and actually get good. But this guy's crazy. He's like faking all of it and taking all the money and it's crazy. It's so wild. Oh my gosh.
The best type to get by far is Grass. Since you can't check your hidden power to see what stats it has, you need to test it in battle. And in Jadiwi's world record, we see that against the rival Starly, it wasn't very effective. But against the Piplup, it was super effective. This indicates that it's Grass type, and given the high damage output, the base power is also high as well. At this point,
Good
he
Pokemon?
has a lead on the other racers, but even with a Grass-type hidden power, the recommended route is to get some extra experience before taking on the gym. But Jadiwi doesn't do this and heads straight for Roark, leaving...
He's like, nah, I don't need the extra levels, dude. I'm cracked. Watch this. I don't need it. I don't need it. Oh my gosh. It was Metal Gear Rising about 2-3 years ago. Lily live streamed a previously... Wait, maybe I have heard of that one. Oh, maybe, no, wait. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I remember hearing about a spliced attempt, but I think it was maybe something else. It might have... Oh, wait. It might have been a Mario spliced one? Maybe? I don't know. But that's still crazy, though. They just live streamed it at GD... Doing it at GDQ is ballsy. That is wild, actually. Oh, my God.
Leaving the extra XP on the table is a risk, and doesn't make much sense given that this was a race, but you could always say that Jadiwi stopped caring about the race and wanted to go for record given his great start,
stopped caring about
so
the
this isn't
race.
the most convincing evidence. When he finishes the run, he's beaten the previous world record by over a minute and a half. But given
That's
the
wild.
investigation, it no longer passed the sniff test, so the mods investigated. This time, it would be Minnow that analyzed the run, and not finding anything on its face that was wrong, he broke out some tools that would help him identify the RNG seed of the run itself. Solving for the initial RNG seed of a diamond or pearl
There's so
run
much math.
isn't very difficult,
Oh, God.
as the seed is composed of 3 different variables. The first 2 digits
So many
are
numbers.
calculated by the calendar date and minute plus second value of the DS clock, with the 3rd and 4th digits being calculated by the hour value. The final 4 are the number of frames since the game booted up, plus the last 2 digits of the year. The seed is generated the frame you clear the TV cutscene, with the frame since boot being counted from the first white frame after doing a soft reset. But
There's so much.
calculating Jadiwi's seed was difficult for 2 reasons. First, Minnow didn't know what year Jadiwi's DS clock was set to, but since it can only be a finite number, this just means that his calculation will involve a range of seeds rather than a single. And second, Jadiwi hid his DS clock from the video, choosing to have the calculator active instead. This is a strange decision, as most runners won't ever change this setting. But fortunately, the clock is the default option when you receive the Poketch. So there was an instance where the DS clock was active on Jadiwi's screen. This let Minnow get a range of seeds that only varied by the year variable, so he put them into a tool called Pokefinder, which lets you enter RNG seeds, and in turn, it spits out the frames that a certain Pokemon will appear on.
Oh, God.
This was only part of the equation, however, as he also needed the IVs of the Chimchar, which can be calculated by looking at its stat increases at level up. But in this case, Jadiwi was using a tool that displayed the stats on screen, so Minnow plugged them into Pokefinder along with the range of RNG seeds he calculated. And what do you think happened when he hit the find button? The Chimchar that Jadiwi used did not appear in any of the RNG seeds.
Doesn't exist!
A clear indicator that the run had been spliced. This wasn't the only RNG analysis that Minnow performed, however, as the trainer ID that appears when you enter the Hall of Fame is also tied to the seed. When he reverse engineered the seed from the trainer ID, the specific ID appeared in a handful of seeds, but only one of these can occur when the DS clock is at hour 1, which we know was Jadiwi's clock time if we look at when he received the Poketch and subtract his run time. This seed has a slightly higher delay than was expected of Jadiwi's run, given that Minnow frame counted what his delay should be. And if we look at the Chimchar that the trainer ID seed can generate, the hidden power grass with a hasty nature isn't one of them. That makes
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him!
2 pieces of conclusive evidence that the run was cheated, but Minnow took it a step further and injected the trainer ID seed into a run.
More.
The point of this was so he could compare NPC movement between the seed observed at the start and the seed generated from his trainer ID, as NPCs will always move the same on a given RNG seed. In Jadiwi's run, we see that the NPC outside of Mom's house starts facing left, then looks up, but on the trainer ID seed, the NPC starts looking right, then switches to left, then looks up. This proves that his trainer ID doesn't match the seed in the beginning, and that even if this was the correct trainer ID, the Chimchar doesn't exist on this seed or the seed observed at the start. This was the smoking gun the mods were looking for, and before we move on to his other runs, let's look at some of his behavior around this one. On November 30th, after he set the 105, he went into Sin's chat and said he should try for a...
Yo, good luck. Wait, isn't your PB 106 something something? Keck, I should try to get an hour on Manipulus one day. It doesn't seem that hard if you have a good Chimchar. Manipulus is one of the worst categories to grind. Resetting hidden powers is so woozy face. Damn, dude, that's so woozy face. I use the woozy face emoji so much. I'm gonna stop using the emoji and I'm just gonna start typing woozy face. Good manip chatting. Bro, dude's out himself like, yeah, I should totally do this. This seems really hard. I'm gonna do it. And he does it, bro. He's outing himself in Twitch chat.
Sub-hour time. As we know now, he achieved the feat the very next day with his fake run, so he was...
The very next day! No fucking shot, dude. Oh my god. Yeah, I should try it one day. Proceeds to do it the next day?
foreshadowing his own accomplishment in another runner's
Foreshadowing
chat.
it. That's
then returned
crazy.
to gloat after he's...
Yo! Literally the next day! The next day in Twitch chat! Yo, good luck! It's the same yo with 3 L's too. And then like, wait, let me get rid of the captions real quick. I did it, dude! Sub 1 hour in Manipulus. And I should do it one day. I did it the next day! Oh my god, that's crazy. What a woozy face. Dude, woozy face.
Passed off the fake run. I spoke to some of the runners involved in the race as part of my own investigation and asked them who organized the 3 races. And in each case, it was Jadiwi who organized them. showing that not only did he fake a run, but he calculated the when and where of how he would show it off. One of them even says that looking back, his tone of voice during the run doesn't sound authentic, which lines up completely given that we know the run was pre-recorded, and to help hide this fact, he made tapping sounds on his DS during the race to make it seem like he wasn't playing a recording. Jadiwi had a previous record in this category as well,
interesting.
and he even points out that the time difference between them was almost identical, but I guess that's not hard to accomplish when you're faking runs and setting up races to pass them off as legit.
Yeah.
But this Pearl run was just the beginning. If we look at Jadiwi's timeline since he started speedrunning, we see that he began with Pearl, then moved on to various categories in Gen 1, with his first record coming in Red Any %, a run of pure execution that uses save corruption to credits warp. He had posted some times with video proof prior to this record, so it didn't raise any suspicion. A lot of his runs between August and early October did not have video proof, but that would change after he finished running gold, as he started setting records very quickly. Most of them were in short categories he was considered good at, so they didn't raise many eyebrows. But no save corruption is a different story. At the time when it was performed, it was generally believed to
No
be
effect on the
legitimate.
run? Okay, if the color palette has no effect on the run, why are you playing the game in this color palette? Oh my god, that hurts my eyes. Holy. And speaking of hurting your eye, I got an eyelash in my eye. Please leave. Thank you. Dude, why are you running it in this color palette if it has no effect on the run? Why would you do this to yourself? Oh my god.
But insanely lucky run. However, once the investigation started, some serious doubt was cast on its legitimacy. The run is a mix of RNG and execution, as you need to play to Viridian Forest before you can activate the credits warp glitch, which requires the rival fight and going through the tall grass on Route 1 3 times. For the rival fight, the fastest thing that can happen is for the Squirtle to use Tackle 5 times to KO your Charmander, with it having about a 50% chance to select Tackle over Tail Whip. This equates to about a 3% chance of getting the optimal RNG, with some edge cases bumping the odds up a bit, but they're still low. When it comes to the tall grass, you need to pass through 41 tiles of it, with each tile having a tile value of 25. To
More
decide
math.
if you get an encounter, the game rolls a number between 0 and 255, with an encounter being generated if the number rolled is less than the tile number. This gives odds of about 2% for 0 encounters, with combined odds of about 5% to get that and a good Squirtle fight. And this RNG is required for any potential world records. After that, you need to manipulate.
Yeah, things with RNG is it does very much come up to like a lot of odds, and like certain things have to be in place in order for it to happen. It happens in Dark Souls. I feel like in Pokemon, it's very much, it seems like there's a lot more math involved. Maybe there is math in Dark Souls. I just don't pay attention to the math. I just do it. But in this, it seems so complicated and so down to like, you know, encounter chances and like typing chances. There seems like there's so many like different variables that can affect a run. And for this dude to just get it quote unquote perfectly is very sus.
Manipulate a Spearow catch, as it's a better Pokemon than Charmander for clearing the trainers in the forest. Once you have Spearow, you're now ready for the most difficult manipulation in all of Pokemon speedrunning. It involves manipulating 0 encounters in the forest so you can trigger a Pikachu fight as you enter a trainer's line of sight. This
Ooh.
gets the game in a state where your actions now edit the code itself, which is known as arbitrary code execution, or ACE. The manipulation doesn't end at the Pikachu, however. A runner named Grogear developed it so that you carry it through 2 more bug catcher fights, with the requirements being frame-perfect inputs and short windows to clear text boxes, which leaves a lot of spots for mistakes across the 2-minute manipulation. In
Frame perfect inputs, you already know that takes a lot of skill. You have like a 60th of a second to do an input. Those are hard.
His run, not only did he get a 5-turn death with the rival, but he also had 0 encounters before the Spearow manip. And when it came time to execute Grogear's new manip, not only did he perform it, but he also got 2 unmanipulated crits on the final 2 bug catcher fights. When Grogear first developed the extended manipulation, it took him weeks to get a below average consistency with it. But if we look at Jadiwi's proficiency with a comparable manip, we don't see much reason to be confident in his abilities. The triple extended manip in Red Glitchless requires you to manipulate a Nidoran encounter and catch, continue it into a Pidgey encounter and catch, then extend it into a 0 encounter forest until you fight the bug catcher, where you force one final event by having its Weedle use String Shot. It's agreed by top runners that while this manip is hard, Grogear's in the no save corruption category is harder. And when it came to Jadwi's execution at the triple extended, we see that he often dropped it at the Pidgey catch, as happened in his 143. This doesn't mean he can't execute the harder manip, but it does cast doubt on his ability to be able to hit it while under the pressure of finally getting the 5-turn death and 0 encounter start.
Yeah, so you can do, you can definitely pull off, like, hard tricks, but if you're under pressure, it's a lot harder, especially when they're frame perfect. If you're going for, like, records and there's a lot on the line, it is so much harder. And this guy doesn't have a very good track record of being able to pull off manipulations successfully all the time, as we saw before with the whole step counter thing, and he messed up the Wingull manip, but he ended up getting the Kyogre one, but he also spent 40 hours on the Mudkip thing. Like, this guy's, he's so variable with it. He doesn't have a very proven track record of being, like, successful all the time. So it's very sus, especially when you have a lot on the line. And if this is considered the hardest thing in Pokemon history, I don't know, man. That's kind of sus. So only able to get the Nidoran into Pidgey, but nothing beyond that. So frustrating. I've never actually done Pokemon speedrunning, but I know that things can be pretty damn hard to try to be able to pull things off. Like, I don't do glitchless runs. Glitch runs very much. I've dabbled in it a little bit, and it's hard. It's hard. I prefer glitchless just myself, but the glitch runs are hard. But even still, like, even in glitchless runs, there are skips. So the manipulation that he was doing earlier isn't considered a glitch, to my understanding, because it's in the glitchless category. But it's still a manipulation where you still have to be kind of on point with it. So being able to, like, manipulate the game to be successful is hard. And this guy is, he's a little sus. He's a little sus. I'm kind of digging the Pokemon speedrunning though. It kind of sounds interesting. I'm not gonna lie. It would be hard for me to learn, but it is a little tempting. It sounds a little tempting. I'm gonna practice for a week, guys, and then I'm gonna woozy face, get a world record, and win a lot of money. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna cheat my runs. Unless? I'm kidding.
Further problem is that by Jadwi's own admission, he only had 5 or 6 runs that were 5-turn 0 encounters, but that he failed the extended manip in all of them, meaning the only run he had beyond the manip was this one. After the manip, there are still some actions you need to take, and Jadwi proceeded to get the best RNG possible with 2 unmanipulated crits, the faster of 2 possible fights, a fast bug catcher dialogue, and a non-crash ace warp, with the combined odds of these events being 1 in 800. You may have noticed a pattern developing where Jadwi always finishes a run if he gets a good start, with there only being a handful of examples where he posted screenshots of dead runs.
Yeah, it's like he gets a successful, like, start, and it always finishes. The amount of times that I've got a good start, and then I fail the run at the end, it happens so much. This guy is just, he gets a good start, and it's just a winner, like, guaranteed. That's very sus, dude. That is so sus. Because I'll reset a lot of runs. I'll reset a ton of runs early game or around mid game, especially because at a higher level, there's a lot of points where it's just like, oh, you lost time. Well, there's no point in continuing it. So, like, I'll lose runs a lot. But, like, just because I have a good early game, I'll still lose it at the end game, dude. The amount of times I've lost runs to Twin Princes is crazy. Or DSA is crazy. But this guy's just, he gets a good run, and it's a winner. And not just, like, a successful run. It's like a world record contender run, which is insane.
And this wasn't lost on the mods as they carried out the investigation. While they couldn't find a
W
splice,
mods.
they did acknowledge that despite every world record in Pokemon requiring exceptional luck, Jadwi rarely spent more than a week grinding any category before achieving a record. And in this run, the single attempt he managed to get through the manipulation received the best luck possible, with their verdict being that it was likely achieved through illegitimate means. There's also the Red Glitchless Classic record he set on November 21st, just 4 days after his second place time in Sapphire. When he last ran the category, his attempt count was 164, and the earliest he could have started this grind was midday on the 17th. When he got the record, his attempt count was 622, meaning across 3.5 days, he did 458 attempts. If we run a calculation and assume he played 14 hours a day as he claimed in Sapphire, we see that he was averaging 7 minutes per attempt, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's crazy.
Most runs in this category are getting to Brock. which is at the 11-minute mark. This
That's
run
crazy.
also didn't have any identifiable splices in it, but given all the other evidence, this run's legitimacy was also doubted by the mods. And not wanting to alarm Jadiwi in case he tried to hide evidence, they didn't inform him of this investigation when it started. Along with analyzing his runs, they also gathered statements he made in Discord.
My 145 took me 250 attempts. I assume I'm a fraud, but at least I didn't choke and I played well. The pace gave me chatting. Sorry to go here, tell me that everything is already choke and pace is normal. I agree with him. Okay, I don't want to read all of that.
Twitch chats, and one that consistently appeared was Jadiwi claiming he didn't lose runs in the late game because he was better at execution and handling pressure. He says that if you gave his RNG...
Did you say that he's better than others?
to other runners, they wouldn't be able to execute, then complains about people calling him lucky when he sets a record, but congratulate others when they do. But getting called lucky shouldn't have surprised him, given that he finished his best pace ever every single time he got it. After his 145 in glitchless, he acknowledges that other players who have spent more time grinding than him and have worse times are better runners than he is. It's almost as if he's telling on himself, and then goes on to say that
to be honest, I feel uncomfortable for guys like Groger, Yuji, or Huang Bro who have spent tens of thousands of attempts to do similar time, and I'm obviously not as good. Bruh. Then why are you? Why are you? Your time's as good then if you're obviously not as good, huh?
That if he wins the $1,000 bounty, he would give half to 2 different runners. He's asked at one point why he doesn't upload any of his runs to the leaderboard.
That's true! Dude, everyone uploads their stuff on speedrun.com. Is he just not uploading them? He's just boasting about it in Discord?
With Jadiwi replying that he doesn't have a Game Boy player and can't run on emulator because his computer sucks. Which brings up
But you can stream
point.
it?
When Jadiwi wasn't streaming attempts, he never locally recorded any of his runs. Pokémon Red is not a CPU-intensive game to stream, let alone record.
Yeah.
In fact, it can be ran on a TI-84 calculator that uses a processor.
Wait, you can put Pokemon on a calculator, dude? Dude, where was this when I was in board in math class? Dude, what? Oh my god, wait, now I really want to play Pokemon on a calculator. That's crazy, what the hell?
From 1974, and one member of the community even plays and records attempts on a Lenovo T420, a PC pad that's 13 years old. The first Game Boy emulator released in '96, and one of the first screen recording softwares, Fraps, released in '99. Fraps doesn't require much processing power by today's standards, and its 3.0 version has min specs of a Pentium 4 processor, which is hardware available in the year 2000.
Yeah.
Given this, the fact that he didn't record runs and made excuses for why he couldn't makes zero sense, as a PC that's older than he is can perform the required operations without overheating or maxing out on memory.
A PC that's older than he is, that's a line.
Given the hard evidence in Pearl, the mountain of evidence from Sapphire and other games, and all of these statements, the mods were confident in their investigation and were ready to move forward with their decision. But before they could, Jadiwi posted that he was retiring from speedrunning. He cites
Bro just said, oh, if you're gonna fire me, I'm actually gonna submit my 2 weeks. Nuh-uh.
an increasing school schedule as the main reason, as he won't have time to do 14-hour-a-day grinds anymore, and says that with the free time he does have, he will be focusing on speed cubing, which is solving Rubik's Cubes incredibly fast. On top of this, he's
Okay, wait. He can't splice IRL. Actually, no. If it's just a hand cam, he could totally try to fake it and take someone else's hand cam or something. He'll probably find a way to manipulate that as well.
shorter categories to run, as he doesn't have the mental strength to do longer runs and needs breaks every 2 hours, which seems odd given that he would spend 14 hours a day grinding according to his own statements. He then goes into a story about how he was bullied as a child due to a medical condition. I'm not going to dispute this or go into it beyond highlighting that he cites these experiences as to why he didn't stream much during his grinds. He ends with a final shot at another runner, then rides off into the sunset. Or so everyone thought, because the next day, the mods informed him that as a result of their investigation, he had been banned from the Discord and leaderboards.
Oof.
Not informing him about the investigation was a smart move, because immediately after this, he began deleting Discord messages and videos. But luckily, the mods had already backed up everything. He replies to this message the next morning, stating he would wait for the report to be released before commenting. But just 2 hours later, he released another paste bin. It opens with, GG. Quite impressed with the effort to find out how I cheated, and goes in.
Oh, so he admitted it to find out how I cheated.
to
Right?
why he cheated his first run, which was the blue no save corruption, claiming he did perform 3,000 attempts, but became frustrated he couldn't get the record. He admits to using save states to splice the run together, then says that he didn't cheat for bounties and that he felt terrible about cheating and didn't like lying to people. But when he saw the run wasn't scrutinized, he decided to cheat more as he wanted to make the most of his remaining time speedrunning. He admits to Sapphire, Red Classic, and Red Glitchless being cheated, and even claims to have had a save state ready in case he was proof called for the 143, then offers a single apology and claims again that he didn't care about the bounties, and had he received them, he would have given half to the runners he promised to distribute the $1,000 bounty to, and that the other $7,500 would have been given to his parents. This statement is absolutely ludicrous and should be reason enough to doubt anything he said, as it's contradicted in the very pastebin itself. If he didn't cheat for the bounties, then why cheat the runs that award you the bounties in the first place?
Yeah.
And more importantly, he didn't say that he would have refused the money, but instead claims he would have taken it and given it to other runners and his parents.
So he wouldn't have, like, owned up to it. He still would have, like, said that it was legit so that he could have received the money. He just would have divvied it out, but technically, maybe he didn't have to divvy it out. There's nothing forcing him to divvy it out. He could have kept it for himself if he would have gotten it.
If he didn't care about the bounties, then why message one of the bounty posters asking if you can stream the runs on Discord instead of on Twitch? This is in direct conflict with his pastebin, since why would you ask if you can claim a bounty if you didn't care about them?
Yeah.
Never mind asking to stream your runs in a less public method. Interestingly enough, he never admitted to cheating the Pearl run, despite that one having direct hard evidence, nor did he admit to the red or yellow any percent runs being cheated, likely because at the time of the mods informing him of the ban, they hadn't released the report, so Jadiwi didn't actually know what they had caught and what they hadn't. After his pastebin, he did admit to using save states to splice the Pearl run together, and you might be wondering how no splices were able to be detected, and the answer is that Jadiwi is very familiar with video editing software. He had other YouTube channels where he
he's an
created music,
editor!
Photoshop tutorials, and edited challenge videos around Pokémon. The challenge video channel has since been scrubbed, but using the Wayback Machine, you can see that it did have content at one point. So the answer to how he was able to splice undetected is that he was very skilled at using equipment that can create spliced runs. And
So he's skilled at least video editing, just not at executing manipulations or speedrunning correctly without cheating. I see.
with the Pearl run in particular, he claims he did it on a flash cart, which has faster load times than the DS. If you look at the loads in the video, however, they are about the same as you'd expect on a DS, meaning he accounted for this discrepancy when splicing the run. This also defeats his earlier claim of not being able to locally record because of his PC being potato quality.
But he's an
As
editor!
Any computer that can run editing software certainly has the capacity to run an emulator with recording software. All of this goes to show the lengths he went through not to get caught, so the mods deserve congratulations in catching this before he was able to claim bounties,
GG's mods.
as while getting lucky may not be a crime, succeeding in stealing almost $10,000 with fake videos almost certainly
wild.
is. And who
Holy.
knows, maybe I'll be making a video on a speed tubing cheater later this year.
Oh, what a send-off! What a send-off! Maybe I'll be making a video on a speed cubing too. Oh my god! That's wild! That's so crazy! Oh my god! That was a good watch! That was so neat! Like, even though I don't know all the like ins and out of Pokemon speedrunning, like there's a lot of math. They did a really good job at actually explaining the manipulation, so I feel like I have a decent understanding of it. That was a well done video, so props to them. Thank you guys all for watching. This was crazy. I love learning about this stuff. This is wild. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Go check out my Twitch down below, my Twitter, and all the other socials. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.